right, happy Tuesday. Today we are going to do a little bit of matching. So we're going to look at a couple of equations, analyze what we can pick out of those equations, and match it up with one of these lines on my coordinate plane. So taking a look at what we've got here, we are going to try to identify the slope and the intercept from each one of these equations. Determine if the slope means that it's going up or down as we move left to right. And then we're going to determine the y-intercept, and we'll determine if maybe that's going to be located above or below the x-axis so that we can determine which one of these lines is the one we're looking for. So let's start with number one. If I want to find the slope, in order to find the slope, we should always be looking, when y is by itself, right in front of the x. So I have a slope of 5. Remember, that can be written as a fraction, which means you could think of this as 5 over 1, meaning it goes up 5 and right 1. This is a positive slope, which means we're looking for something that's moving up as it goes to the right. Okay, if we look at our b, our y-intercept, we have a y-intercept value of -3. Because it's negative, that means we're going to be looking below the y or the x-axis. So if we take a look at our graph, we are looking for, let's go with where we begin. So it needs to cross the y-axis at -3, which is below the x-axis right here. So if we look at all the lines that cross below the axis, we really only have this one option. So here's -3. Let's make sure that it has a slope of 5 over 1. It's going up to the right, so that's good, it's increasing. So from here, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. All right, so that is definitely our line, right? It has an intercept of -3, and it has a slope of up 5 over 1. It was easy to pick that one out because it is the only line on here that has a y-intercept that's below the x-axis. So that one is called for. This is number 1. Okay, we got one. All right, one major benefit of why we're able to do this so easily is notice it is in slope-intercept form. Y equals a number times x plus or minus a number. Okay, so slope-intercept form helps us here. All right, let's try to pick out the next one. So again, we can say, yep, y is by itself. This is in slope-intercept form. So let's find that slope and find the intercept. My slope on this one doesn't actually have a number, but when there's nothing there, we take the sign and we can just say that's a 1. So I have a slope of -1. If I want to write that as a fraction to make it easier to graph, we would just say -1 over 1. So that means this thing is going down 1 and right 1. That negative means I have a negative slope, and it's going down as I read it from left to right. Let's look at my y-intercept to help us really find which line this is. I have a y-intercept of +4, which means 4 is above the x-axis because it's positive. So when I'm trying to figure out which line this one is, I'm looking first for a y-intercept that is above the x-axis, but my line is going down as we go from left to right. So let's first start with where it begins. So this begins on the positive axis. We've got a couple. We have 2 that are crossing the y-axis above 0. Okay, so we've got one here, it's crossing at 4, and one here that's crossing at 7. The one that crosses at 7 is not going to be our answer because that would have a b value of 7. And also, notice this one's going up and to the right. We want the line that's crossing at 4 that's going down. So let's check this slope. This thing's going down 1 and right 1. Down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. So that is my slope of -1. So we found our line. This is the one. So it's going down as we read from left to right, and it's crossing at +4. All right, we've got 3 more to choose from. So our next example, if we're looking for our slope, remember you always look to see if the y is by itself first. and that it's in this form. Y equals some number times x plus or minus a number. Notice there's nothing here. It's just an invisible plus 0. So it's still in our form, y equals mx plus b. So let's pull out the m and the b. Here's my slope. So slope is -2. And for the purposes of graphing, let's rewrite that as -2 over 1 so that we can see this thing is going down 2 and over 1. So negative slope goes down as we read it from left to right. Now let's identify our y-intercept. So here is that value. It is a 0, which means it's crossing right at the origin. So we really don't have an above or below because it's right on the axis. So when we look at our graph and we're trying to find which one this is, we're looking for something that's crossing at 0, so crossing at the origin, and has a negative slope. So we only have a couple lines left to choose from. We have 2 that are crossing right at the origin. One of them is going up and one of them is going down. So between those 2 options, same exact intercept, we have a negative slope. So we're not going to want the one that goes up and to the right. We want the one that goes down. So let's double check its slope. So from here to its next intersection, it's going down 2 and right 1. So that's what our slope told us it was. So that one's our answer. So we want this one. Proportional relationship because it goes through the origin and it's got a negative slope of 2. I stopped labeling which numbers these are. This was 2, this is 3. All right, 2 more equations and 2 more lines. So this one, let's check its form. Y equals a number times x plus or minus a number. We don't have a number there again, so we need to imagine that it's a plus 0. So that just gave us our intercept right from the start. So this thing has an intercept at 0. So this one's crossing through the origin. So again, we don't have to deal with this above or below. We have a slope of 1/3. So it's already in fraction form, so we don't have to make it a fraction. And this one means we're going up 1 and right 3. So positive slope means this thing goes up as we read it from left to right. So easy thing is, we only have 1 line left that's crossing through the origin. So right here, this thing's crossing through the origin and it's got a positive slope. And if we count it, up 1 over 1, 2, 3 gives us our line. So this must be number 4. This gives us one final line. And if we're looking at this and we're trying to identify the slope and the intercept, before you jump in and try to take that number right in front of the x, you need to notice that the y is not by itself. That's something we're going to have to fix to get it into slope-intercept form. So we're going to use our equation solving skills from our last unit. And we want this to move over to the other side so that this y can be alone. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use an inverse operation. I'm going to add 3x to both sides. That's going to cancel. Y is alone. These will not combine because they're not like terms. So I'm just going to rewrite it as 3x plus 7. Now you'll notice that we have y equals a number times x plus a number. So now it's in slope-intercept form where I can identify my slope as 3 or as 3 over 1 for graphing, and my intercept as positive 7. So analyzing that slope, we've got a positive value, which means it's going to go up 3 and right 1. So as we move left to right, it goes up. My b value is positive 7, which means we're going to find that above the x-axis. So we only have one line left to choose from, but let's just confirm that we did it right. This final line has a y-intercept of 7. And if we go from here to the next point, it's going up 1, 2, 3, and right 1. So we have a slope of 3. So y-intercept of 7, slope of 3. This is our final line. This is number 5. Okay, so now you guys are ready to do this on your own. So this is the one that's for you. So here's the point where you can pause and give these a try on your own. What you're going to do is take each of these equations and try to match them with these 3 lines. So you might need to zoom in, so hit pause, zoom in, check out those intercepts and the slopes, and when you're ready or you think you have the correct answers, hit play and find the answers.